Hi, in today's video I thought we'd do a colour palette based on a lunar landscape I found at Mount Etna, which I recently went to visit with the hope of seeing it erupt. Unfortunately, when I got there it had stopped erupting, but it did mean that I could go and visit the lava fields. At first sight they look like they're just dark grey and brown, and it doesn't look like there's a lot going on there. It looks very desolate and bleak. But as we were walking around them, if you look closely, there's a whole bunch of colour in there, from plants, different rock colours, and I really found that quite fun. So I took some pictures, and let's go now and see what I've got, and then we can do a drawing afterwards. I somehow managed to lose the audio for this colour section, so I'm going to have to do a voiceover instead. Let's see how that goes. I decided to use the Derwent Inktense Paint Pan Studio set and the Derwent Graphitint pencils because those were the things that I took on holiday with me. So those are the ones that I'm going to try out right now. I had a colour chart from a previous video I made on the Graphitint pencils, so I'm going to use that. But then I also made another one in this little sketchbook that I found in London. It was really nice paper. It felt very soft, 100% cotton, 210 grams, smooth, although it does have a texture to it and has quite an uneven surface at times, so sometimes the pencil wouldn't go down all across it, and for that reason I decided not to use it in this video. I've chosen a smoother paper, so I think that'll work out better. I did, however, make a colour chart in the back of this with all the stuff that I took on holiday with me, so let's have a look at that. It was the Graphitint pencils at the top. Then I had the Inktense Paint Pan Studio set. Then these were the Inktense pencils, just a small selection of them. And then the bottom row was the Caran d'Ache Museum Aquarelle. But I'm not going to use either of the bottom two, even though I definitely love those three there. So the colours you can see right now are the ones that we're going to be using in this video. And the paper that we're going to be using is the Winsor & Newton Drawing 220 gram smooth paper, which will work better than the sketchbook. So the first picture that we're going to look at is a general rocky landscape. Most of the area was that dark grey, but then occasionally there were these patches where there were more reddy, ochre kind of rocks, which is really lovely. So I'm going to choose some colours from the Graphitint pencils for that. They are the perfect pencils for this landscape because they've got the browns and the greys and the reds and pretty much all the colours that you can see in there. So let's just pick some of those. Next up, the next picture, we're going to need the yellow ochre. This is a colour that I really struggle with because I don't really enjoy it, but I have been noticing that here in Italy it's pretty much everywhere. It's on loads of buildings, the yellowy colour that you find on the buildings, and in this volcanic landscape it was in abundance. So you can see here on these plants they've got it in the middle. This is a really cool little plant. It had green leaves on the spikes, and then as the green leaves fell off they would leave these really spiky spikes. And so it was quite the plant. I'm not sure what it needs to protect itself from in the volcanic landscape, but I'm sure I can do some research and find out. So I'm also going to pick a green, the dark green there, and knowing me, I'm going to pick another green because I don't seem to be able to limit myself when it comes to colours. I should really try, but I struggle with that. So, and then I think in there's probably a grey that I'm going to pick out as well. Somewhere. And yes, there it is. Doing this voiceover is almost like predicting the future. I can kind of remember what I did, but not exactly. But I got the grey right. So now I'm just going to wash out the top row of the Graphitint pencils with some water so we can see what they look like when they're wet, because that's probably how I'm going to use them. So, and their colour comes more to life, so let's have a look at that. Next up is a lovely little yellow flower, which my phone tells me is a telegraph weed. I love my phone because you can take a picture of a plant and sometimes an animal too, flick it up and then it'll tell you what the plant is, which is great because I'm always wondering. And this is a really handy way of finding out quickly without having to do any more research. Now I'm going to have to make a choice between the yellows. I should pick that one, but I like that one more, so I'm probably going to pick that one. Almost certainly going to pick that one. And the mango one as well, because that goes with the middle of the flower. Maybe that green, but I feel like it's too bright for the leaves, so it should probably be the one above. So here we go with the sherbet lemon. It's got a really nice greeny tint to it, but it's still very yellowy. That's why I love it. And next up is the mango. And then it seems like I'm going to leave it for there on that one and go straight into the pink. Found this lovely pink flower. The pink flower, according to my phone, is a red catchfly, which is a great name, but I'm not sure it'd be big enough to really catch a fly. Next I pick a green, but it's really way too bright. So I'll have to see if I can tone it down, maybe by adding some yellow or something. Let's try that. That's a better green, but it's still a bit bright, especially not really looking great with what's in the photograph, but never mind, we can always deal with that later or just eliminate it. Now I have to try and find a colour to go with those red kind of stalks. So this is going to be the red pencil from the Graphitint pencils. But oops, I've mixed it with the green brush, so it's not coming out the right colour. I'll just do a little patch of the red below so that I can have the proper colour mixed with a clean paintbrush. Remember, Rebecca, clean your paintbrush. The only animal I found among the ash was this little ladybird, so I'm going to try and find a colour to match him. But the pink is too strong, so I'm going to have to mix it with a bit of orange. The red is too strong, not the pink. So that should do. There we go. So that's looking like a pretty nice colour palette, if you ask me. But there's something missing because I have forgotten the major scene, which has got a few more colours to add. So this is the scene that I'm going to be sketching. You can see a crater right in front of me, the one in the distance, and then there's another two right on the right, but you can't quite see them. But I felt like I had to have another green because it's me and I can't do without several thousand colours. So I added this green from the Graphitint pencils, and I think it's a slate green. And that should be it. But of course it wasn't. I added another one, which is the meadow green, which is a really yellowy colour, which I felt like I really needed, even though I seem to have somehow missed it out during the rest of the swatching. So that gets added much later. Here I'm just adding a line along the bottom so that when I draw the picture, you can see the colours that I used. So I'll just speed that up and race to the end, and then we can get on with the drawing. wait for it. Tack! Oi, oi, oi! That'll teach me not to clean my brush. Well, I guess it's pink, so maybe I'll just make it into an erupting volcano, because that is, after all, what I came to see. So that's as far as I've got with the pencils and the paint pan set. What lessons have I learned? First of all, clean my brush, especially when I've been using bright pink. Second of all, that it's quite hard drawing on camera. First of all, you've got the position. I had the picture positioned under my light, so it wasn't in the ideal position for me, and my hand, as you probably saw, kept getting in the way of the film, which wasn't so much of a problem, but some of the angles were quite awkward. And then it's going through this perpetual ugly phase, which is not comfortable when you're on film. I felt like it had to be perfect, but it was far from that, and still is far from that, especially seeing as it was unplanned. And lastly, I'm not really sure how I'm feeling about these Graphitint pencils. I love them, but I don't feel like in this piece I really found the way to work with them. They were quite hard to keep a fine point. They weren't very soft, and then you were getting thick lines, so I wasn't really able to get the detail that I was looking for in some areas. So we'll see. I'll just have to play around with them more and figure out how I like to use them. For now, I'm going to take this into Procreate and finish it off.